someone asked about sort of bang for buck exercise as well again, and it's like going back to the old school kind of 4x4 boulders, doing that with a group of friends. Don't put a timer on, just someone does 4 boulders, the next person does 4 boulders, and if you've got a group of 4 or 5 of you, it will usually be a good timer. And I've done that this season with quite a lot of different climbers, from outdoor boulders working on small things, small problems, to comp athletes, to route climbers. And that session is something that I think builds a lot of session robustness, power endurance, and your aerobic endurance, because you usually climb for a long time before and then the session goes on. And we ended up most of the time doing like 8x4s or something, so do 8 sets of it just because everyone got psyched. And it's given me a good confirmation on, say, Toby Roberts is a young lad, so he's getting older quite quickly, and he's physically developing in the last couple of years or so. So there's a little bit of a caveat there, but the grade difference between him in January last year when we were going to Innsbruck, just training for bouldering, getting ready for the boulder season, and he was arriving in Innsbruck at the start of the week and climbing sort of 8A plus on site, and then by the end of the week was having like able to red point sort of 8C, and then later on in the year he was when we actually trained for a lead and started doing far more endurance stuff, the grade would go up. And we went away in January this year, and he's obviously developed as a young adult anyway, but just by doing 4x4s and just loads and loads of bouldering volume, no arcing, none of that sort of base endurance training really. He went out there and was like straight onto sort of 8C on sites, trying to on site 9A plus
wow.
indoors. And he was shocked at the difference coming out of a boulder phase. I was chuffed with the difference, the fact that it was maintained. And I did the training with him, and then have gone to Greece, which is a very physical style, very body intensive, and it's the fittest I've ever felt.
Wow.
And I didn't really do any arcing, didn't do any of that, but I had the time to put into high intense, very long sessions with young athletes. So if you do have the time, the base endurance stuff isn't quite as needed as long as you've got the volume there. But 4x4s is the winner any day of the week with your mates, because everyone's screaming at each other, and it's just like we had 4x4 Thursdays here at the lockup, which is the Lattice office.
4x4 Thursdays, I love it.
Yeah, it was a really, really good scene, and people were like planning their weeks around this 4x4 Thursday just to turn up like feeling moderately good. But we would join that after having trained for 5-6 hours in the morning.
Wow.
Because then when you were feeling knackered and you don't want to be there, everyone else is completely fresh and they just pull you along with the psych. So yeah, it was really good.
Hey friends, I'm interrupting my own video to tell you guys about follow-up episodes. So the video that you're watching right now is from a follow-up episode that I did on the podcast, which means that the full version is only available for patrons who support the podcast for $5 per month or more. You can become a patron by going to patreon.com/thenuggetclimbing. There's a link right there in the description for this video. Again, $5 per month, super quick and easy to sign up, and you can cancel at any time, no questions asked. All right, enjoy the rest of the video. Nice. So yeah, that was Alex that had that question about what are the best bang for your buck training exercises to build up endurance for sport climbing and trad. And I'll add a little bit of Alex's context here to make this even more helpful. But Alex says that they primarily have been bouldering and working on strength for the last year. They climb 4 days a week. How often would you throw in a 4x4 workout like this?
Yeah, I mean, that one, so he's got it for a sport and trad, hasn't he? So I'll probably end up going back on myself on this one a little bit. So I think it's a really good thing for the sport. I think trad, it's still really good in terms of being able to cope with like big days out, particularly if you're multi-pitching, you know, doing like more volume. But 4x4s, you are right, that doing it more in the lead up to some harder sport climbing, it'd be more appropriate. You could just do it throughout the base once a week, and just do a bit of bouldering first and then do that as the main chunk of the session, and then do some conditioning around it. And I think that would that would be really useful. It'd maintain your ability to sustain force throughout a session as well. The one side I would say is it doesn't work as well if you're on a bouldering wall, like a commercial wall, where you are doing a couple of moves, then you can jump to the finishing hold, because you end up getting this weird style of kind of like thrashing through a couple of moves and then just jumping, grabbing a jug and tapping it. Try to do it as a sport climber or boulder, or try to do it on a slightly longer problem. So that it means it, you get used to actually moving well and efficiently, because it does increase your pace of movement, which I think is really good. With regards to doing it endurance specifically for sport or trad, I think one thing that is really good is if you look at sort of repeater workouts or more circuit training, just be really specific on the type of holds or angle you want to be on. So say if you want to do circuits of the wall and you're kind of trying a harder one, or trying to double lap, which is good for trad, something a bit longer on your feet, there's no point being on a 30-degree juggy wall for getting used to hanging on trad. You're better off being on something a bit more edgy and holding the positions that you would have in trad. Same with your workouts on a circuit board don't transfer as well as going on a crack machine. If you're going to be going to the desert and doing crack climbing trad, try to make it as hold specific as possible, because your grip position and your movement style will change, and get used to it. And then lastly, one thing that I have done a lot of, again for even comp athletes, but also something that's helped me personally, I mostly do trad the rest of the year and sport climbing, is spend loads of time on a slab, just on your feet, because I think it gets neglected a lot. We talked about this a bit last time, but I think just being able to cope on your toes makes such a difference in trad, and like getting stronger feet. When I actually got injured before going to Greece, I'd been doing a lot of lower body training for comp blocks, and doing a lot of weightlifting with the athletes. And when I got injured, I went out and just started climbing without my hands. I think you just spoke to Johnny Dawes, so I pretty much did the Johnny Dawes-esque style of going out doing handless climbing on the grit, and it was kind of actually quite shocking how strong I felt on the slabs. Like on these grit slabs, I'd be able to get my foot as high as I could get it and just squat up, and I was climbing sort of up to sort of E6, E7 slabs without, which is probably, what's that, like seven, probably like mid 512s. Yeah, like mid 512s without hands or just padding up. And it was just all toe strength. And that was, I felt this on and off for years, depending on whether I've been big walling and stuff. But it was a really good reminder that if you're a trad or sport climber that's on technical terrain, get your feet fit in the base phase, get your feet fit, like spend as much time as possible on slabs when you're not doing other training. Obviously people are limited on time, so whether it counts as bang for buck, but it does make a massive difference to your performance if you get your feet strong as well.